You know, there comes a moment in your life when the noise around you gets so loud, so chaotic, so overwhelming that you forget the most important voice you have, your own. And if you're hearing me right now, I want you to pause for a second and feel this truth. Your life changes the moment you stop performing for the world and start showing up for yourself. Most people don't realize this. They're busy explaining themselves, defending their choices, proving their worth to people who aren't even paying attention. They think silence means weakness. They think focusing on themselves is selfish. But listen to me, silence is power, and focusing on yourself is the highest form of respect you can give your future. You don't need to announce your healing. You don't need to explain your growth. You don't need to broadcast your evolution. The most powerful transformations happen quietly, in the moments when it's just you, your breath, your truth. That's where real strength is built. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows where no one is watching. People ask me all the time, Tony, how do I rise? How do I get stronger? How do I rebuild my life? And I tell them the same thing I'm telling you right now. You rise when you stop giving the world access to your soul. Focus on yourself, stay silent, move with intention, act with purpose. Because when you stop talking and start doing something incredible happens, you begin to see who you truly are, not who they told you to be, not who they expected you to be, but who you were always meant to be. You start to feel the power that's been lying dormant inside you, the power that's been drowned out by opinions, distractions, judgments, and noise. And here's the truth you need to feel in your bones. Most people fear silence because silence reveals truth. It reveals the truth about your habits, your patterns, your excuses, your desires, your wounds, and your potential. But if you're willing to sit with that truth, if you're willing to focus inward instead of outward, you become unstoppable. There's a version of you that's waiting for your attention, waiting for your discipline, waiting for your commitment, waiting for you to finally say, enough. This is my life. And I'm done giving energy to things that don't grow me. Stop telling people your plans. Stop seeking validation. Stop giving explanations. You don't owe the world a performance. You owe yourself progress. You don't need applause. You need alignment. You don't need approval. You need purpose. And when you choose silence, when you choose to focus on your path, you begin to build a foundation that nobody can shake. Not circumstances, not fear, not opinions, not doubt, because your strength is coming from within, from the hours no one else sees, from the work no one else knows you're doing. You want peace? Protect your energy. You want clarity? Disconnect from distractions. You want transformation? Start investing in yourself like your future depends on it, because it does. Some people won't understand your silence. Some will be threatened by it. Some will question it. Let them. You're not here to be understood. You're here to evolve. And evolution doesn't need noise. It needs focus. It needs discipline. It needs silence. So hear me now. Focus on yourself and stay silent, not because you're hiding, but because you're building. And the world will see the results when it's time. Your greatest transformation begins the moment you stop explaining yourself and start investing in yourself in silence. Because that's the point where your energy finally returns to its rightful owner. When you're constantly justifying your choices, defending your dreams, or seeking permission to be who you are, you leak power in ways you don't even realize. Every explanation is an invitation for someone else to judge, approve, or dismiss your path. And when you allow that, you begin shaping your life around their expectations instead of your own truth. But when you pull that energy back, when you decide that your growth does not require an audience, something inside you shifts. You step into a space of ownership, a space where your time, your choices, your emotions, and your purpose belong to you again. Silence becomes the ground where you rebuild yourself. It's where you start listening to the voice you've ignored for too long, the voice that tells you what you need, what you fear, what you desire, and what you're capable of. Most people numb that voice with noise, distractions, opinions, and constant activity. They're afraid of what they might hear if they slow down and turn inward. But the moment you stop explaining, the moment you stop talking about what you're going to do and start actually doing it, clarity begins to rise. You start separating what matters from what steals your time, what grows you from what drains you, what aligns with your future from what ties you to your past. Transformation doesn't happen when you announce your plans. It happens in the quiet hours. When no one knows what you're working on, when no one sees the discipline you're building or the battles you're fighting inside. The world glorifies big moves, big declarations, big moments, but real change comes from the work you commit to when the room is empty, when the phone is silent, when you're alone with your choices. In silence, your priorities become sharper, your boundaries become stronger, your purpose becomes louder. You begin to understand that not every thought deserves to be spoken, not every struggle needs to be shared, and not every action requires validation. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving people access to rewrite your story. You stop giving them the power to influence your direction with their doubts, their fears, or their limited thinking. People can only meet you at the level of their own understanding, and many will never fully grasp the vision you carry. That's why you don't need them to approve it. You just need to honor it. Silence protects your vision while it's still vulnerable, while you're still forming, while it still needs nurturing. It's like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to show people. You cover it, you water it, you protect it, and you let it grow underground until it becomes strong enough to break through the surface. Focusing inward allows you to confront your habits, your patterns, your discipline, and your truth without distractions. You begin to see where you've been holding yourself back, where you've been settling, where you've been avoiding the work, and where you've been giving time to things that don't move you forward. And as you invest in yourself silently, learning, growing, healing, improving, you become a different kind of powerful. You're no longer reactive. You're intentional. You're no longer influenced by noise. You're anchored. You're no longer waiting to be understood. You're driven by alignment. You begin to realize that the strongest people are not the loudest. They're the ones who move with purpose, who act without needing to convince anyone, who trust their direction enough to walk it alone if they have to. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you step into a level of freedom most people never experience. You reclaim your time, your confidence, your emotional space, your mental clarity, and your personal power. And the more you invest in yourself in silence, the more you begin to transform in ways that words could never describe, because you're no longer living for approval, you're living for evolution. Silence is not withdrawal. It's strategic power that protects your energy, sharpens your focus, and amplifies your growth. Because when you choose silence with intention, you're not stepping back from life, you're stepping deeper into yourself. Most people misunderstand silence. They think it's a sign of weakness, avoidance, or disengagement, but in reality, it's one of the strongest moves a hum and being can make. Silence becomes a training ground where you learn to hear your own thoughts without interference, where you learn to differentiate between the noise of the world and the truth of your own inner voice. And once you start protecting your energy this way, everything in your life begins to shift. When you embrace silence, you create space for clarity. You start seeing who drains you, who inspires you, what patterns hold you back, and what habits pull you forward. People who live loudly often live scattered. Their energy is spread across conversations, opinions, arguments, and unnecessary explanations. But when you choose silence, your energy becomes concentrated. You conserve it, you protect it, and you direct it toward what truly matters instead of wasting it on things that don't grow you. Silence teaches you discipline, because it requires you to hold back what you might instinctively want to say or react to. And in that pause, you gain insight. You learn to respond instead of react, to observe instead of absorb, to choose your battles instead of engaging in every one. Silence sharpens your focus because it removes the constant pull of external validation. When you're quiet about your goals, your plans, your struggles, and your dreams, you eliminate the pressure of performing for others. You're no longer influenced by their doubts, their expectations, or their opinions. You're operating on your own timeline, your own standards, your own rhythm. Instead of talking about what you're going to do, you're actually doing it. Instead of seeking approval, you're cultivating mastery. Instead of competing with others, you're competing with your own potential. The quiet becomes a sanctuary where your discipline grows stronger and your ambition becomes more refined. This kind of silence amplifies your growth because every step you take is fueled by intention rather than noise. Growth that happens privately is often the most powerful because it isn't distorted by comparison or judgment. When no one is watching, you're free to make mistakes, free to learn, free to rebuild, free to experiment without fear of criticism. That freedom allows you to evolve in ways you never could if you were constantly explaining yourself or sharing every detail of your journey. Silent growth is clean, focused, and protected. It's like cultivating roots before the world sees the tree. By the time others notice your transformation, the foundation beneath you is unshakable. Silence also strengthens your emotional power. You learn to sit with your feelings instead of running from them. You learn to understand your triggers, your fears, your desires, and your wounds without projecting them onto others. You develop the ability to hold your ground during conflict, to stay steady while others react, to remain centered, even when life becomes chaotic. This is emotional mastery, and it's born in silence. The person who can control their inner world becomes unbreakable in the outer world because they're no longer ruled by impulses or influenced by external noise. The strategic power of silence also transforms how people perceive you. When you stop oversharing, when you stop announcing every move, when you stop seeking validation, you become unpredictable in the best way. You become mysterious, you become respected. People pay more attention to your actions than your words because your silence forces your results to speak. Those who doubted you begin to watch. Those who underestimated you begin to rethink. Those who questioned you begin to understand that you weren't withdrawing. You were preparing. You were building strength, building clarity, building intention. And as your energy becomes protected, your standards rise. You stop tolerating what drains you. Why? Stop engaging in meaningless conflicts. You stop giving access to people who haven't earned it. Silence creates boundaries without needing to speak them. People start noticing the shift, and they either rise to meet your new energy or fall away because they can't. Either way, you win because your silence has filtered your environment for you. When you choose silence intentionally, you choose growth over validation, clarity over chaos, focus over distraction, and evolution over explanation. You choose to build quietly, transform privately, and emerge powerfully because silence was never about weakness. It was about becoming the strongest version of yourself without needing the world's permission.